All right, everyone. Doug Bender from DyeStat.com back with another DyeStat discussion. We're getting closer to not only the USA Championships next week in Eugene, but also the Canadian Champs are coming up in Ottawa next week. And this is the incredible Sarah Mitton, two-time world indoor shot put champion, one of the best throwers in the world, and super excited to go see her a couple times here this month. First time I went to a meet in Canada, but I went to Edmonton and Vancouver both for those runner space productions, and got to see a little bit what that looks like in Canada. And Sarah, first of all, thank you for joining me. And let's talk a little bit about track and field in Canada. And you grew up in Nova Scotia, but boy, when you look at the world of athletics, Canada's got so many tremendous athletes. It feels almost every, like, for the size of the country population wise, like there are some real standouts across the roster there. And it must be super exciting to be part of that right now.
It is. Yeah, Canadian track and field has really grown over, like, I'm going to say the last decade. But I mean, I've been a part of Team Canada now since on like the senior side, maybe about 2018. And watching, like, obviously my own career, but like coming up when my first world championships, like I don't remember winning like many medals. Like if there was like one or two like across the team, like we were super happy. We were like very grateful to be going home with, anyone having those top 12, those making that final.
Yeah.
Like the team was super excited about those kind of performances. And then, you know, post COVID, we get into Oregon 2022, Budapest 23. The team all of a sudden is winning like multiple medals. We're no longer accepting like top eight performances as being like that, like really great standout performance on the team. And it's been really fun to be a part of that. In 23, I was actually a co-captain with Marco Arop, and it was one of like the most memorable experiences of my life because like I won a medal, he won a medal. We won a medal the same night alongside both the decathletes, alongside like countless other medals that were happening. And it was just like it's this like big feeling of pride knowing that, when we're out on the scene now, there's so many of us doing it. It's almost become like the expectation.
Yeah. And we've seen a couple of them rise up through the NCAA here in the last few years with Savannah Sutherland, who just, we saw her open her pro career in Edmonton there. And then Christopher Morales Williams, who is,
Mhm.
boy, such a huge potential star in the 400 meters. But Cameron Rogers,
Yeah.
we've got to know her all the way back in high school when she would come down to Oregon Relays, but then had the amazing college career there at Cal, and obviously one of the world's great hammer throwers. But and the list goes on and on. Andre DeGrasse,
Hmm.
um, Audrey Ledoux,
Audrey Leduc. Yeah.
who we saw break the national or her own national record in the 100 in Edmonton as well.
Hmm.
Um, uh, how close are the athletes on the Canadian team?
It's funny. Like, I actually had someone ask me this the other day about like how, do you actually like know your teammates? And I think, we are quite separated like throughout most of the year. There is like a core group of us at the Athletics Canada High Performance Center in Toronto. Then there's some people in the West, but our team for like the last few years has been relatively the same people. Like we are a very strong kind of top two across the board, but the depth isn't the same as it is in the US. And so when we're making those teams, like it's the same people year on year. It's the same people going to like the NACAC championships. We're traveling together all the time. And I think like the best part is it's not just like throws specifically. It's not just runners. Like our team loves playing cards. They love playing games. Like there's a lot of intermixing. And I think that's really helped create like a really good team culture. Like when we are traveling and we spend time along, like a long time away at camp together. So yeah, I have some really great friendships. One of my best friends is Jillian Weir, Canadian
Mm.
hammer thrower. And we like, I mean, we talk on the phone all the time, catching up on everything, but we don't live anywhere near each other. So we really
You
like,
guys probably came in about the same time, right?
yeah, Jill was a few years ahead of me.
A few years.
She did, I think, 2017 World Championships, and maybe a few of those like development teams that I wasn't on. But so she was a really big like rock star for me. Like when I came on, she really like helped show me the way. And I mean,
Mm.
she'll tell you to this day that she's still telling me what to do probably. But yeah, we have a really great friendship, and we usually room together when we're on trips and camps. So you kind of have to just like find your people. But um, the Canadian team, there are those close friendships, but I would say amongst the group, like everyone is, yeah, I mean, Canadian, like quite friendly, but
Yeah,
there are some, yeah, like really good group dynamics.
yeah, for sure. So Canadian Champs presented by Bell coming up July 30th to August 3rd. The women's shot put final looks like August 1st, which is next for a week today, the Friday, right?
Hmm. Yep.
It's like it caps the day there in Ottawa. Um, uh, you recently, so you've had a little bit of a chance to take a breather, a break, but prior to that, you were very busy with traveling. Obviously, you went from Eugene to Monaco, back to Edmonton. Um, you wrote it in your Instagram, and I copied it down. 14 days, 12 flights, four competitions, and 26 time zone changes. Uh, but that's, you know what I mean. Why not do some hard things right there to get yourself ready, right, for the big meets here yet to come. As you reflect on all of that, the logistics and the competitions, I think you're over 20 meters in three of those four meets, right?
Yes. Yeah. Just Edmonton being the kind of that switch from Monaco to Edmonton with
And
just
you
like
could
one day
understand
in
being a little
between.
fatigued at that one, right? Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was, when we were planning it, like my coach and I, Richard Parkinson, we described it as kind of crazy. Like, definitely Paris was on the list and Monaco being both on the Diamond League circuit, like that, those were two that were kind of non-negotiable. And then for me, the Canadian series like is quite important. So like I try my best to be able to, come out and not only just be there for like the Canadian fans, but help. I'm like really interested in continuing to grow track and field in Canada. And I think that showing up at those meets and like helping build like the fan base and helping build the experience is like a big part of that. And so for me, like when I heard that Edmonton was going to be, a day shy or a day after, I guess, that travel day, I'm always in for a challenge. And I think like I handled myself as well as I could, given the circumstances. And so for me, like those four competitions were really about performance, obviously, but learning through them. So like how when I feel my worst, can I still try to perform my best? How when I've missed a full night of sleep, because I mean that stuff happens planned or not. Like there's been many examples of athletes traveling from, one diamond league to the next or one major and some major flight
Yeah.
situations occurring, and you still have to go out there. Like it's your dream, it's your livelihood. There's really no sitting out sometimes. So I always love putting myself in, I'm going to call it the hole sometimes, to be able to just see like what can happen. And there's been a few times that something really good has come out. And I feel like this trip was one of those, like in terms of battling through the fatigue to find that consistency in the 20s.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there any hack or any trick to a 10-hour flight? All the lines you have to stand in, maybe going through immigration, like waiting to board the plane, that you can just figure out ways to swallow that and just not let it be a factor when you're in the ring at the meet that you're going to. Like, is there any way to sort of like how do you get through that and not let it affect the hours leading up to your actual competition, and then more, especially when you're ready to go and you're in the ring and it's your turn.
Traveling and learning how to travel efficiently is a huge part of being an athlete in athletics for sure. I mean, most of the time I fly in economy, so there's none of this like, some sports you have major time zone shifts and major, distances from games, but they're flying in maybe better conditions than in track and field. And so for myself, like what that looks like, I guess, is just like learning, like you said, the hacks. It's like, how can I sit in the seat for X number of hours and feel my best when I get off the plane. And I think it comes down to like being prepared for me is, making sure I have enough snacks, making sure I have enough water, making sure that no matter what movie I'm watching, whatever I'm doing to entertain myself, I still have to get up and move and stretch. Like
Mhm.
it's really easy sometimes when you're traveling and you're tired to want to just, you know, put on the eye shade and like sleep for 10 hours. Like that's also great at some point, but you get up feeling quite stiff or your neck is like you've slept with your neck crooked. And then next thing you know, you're trying to find a physio or trying to stretch out before the competition. And I think those little things go a long way. I mean, obviously, napping and getting some sleep on those overnight flights is really important. But for myself, like that, that sleep is going to kind of be a write off. So for me, it's about like the sleep bank. I'm always trying to, in anticipation of my 14-day, 26-hour time zone, whatever trip. It was the week before taking care of myself the best I can so I can be in, I guess, like not starting a trip where I'm going to be in deficit.
Yeah.
So it's like sleeping 10 hours, 12 hours a night, being extra hydrated, being extra mindful on physio and massage, stretching and all that stuff to pre- be more prepared when things are going to go awry.
And that seemed like they feel like it, more or less worked out not too bad. I mean, everyone's going to take a little bit of a, you know, it's not like you can do that unscathed, right? But if you feel like, you got through that pretty well.
I did. The funny thing is the second I woke up the morning after arriving on vacation, I did end up getting sick. So that for me just shows like not only like the emotional toll obviously of like handling yourself, but almost like when you have that moment to breathe, your body and your mind can kind of realize like and they kind of relax
Yeah.
and you
And then
you
it's,
you
yeah,
digest all of what you just did. And yeah, something to be mindful of because of course like there's always a pro and con of taking on those challenges is that I had, maybe had I not gone, I wouldn't have been sick and feeling crummy for the next couple days. But
yeah,
that's part of it.
yeah. Um, should mention your 20 meters 68 is your PR. I know you, Chase Jackson, some of the other top women are really chasing at 21 meters, thinking that that might be the number that's good enough to win in Tokyo. Maybe it's not. Maybe you have to even go farther than that, the way things are shaping up.
Hmm.
Um, but there are multiple ways for you to inspire people, and one of them is by being the best, which you have done. Another one is overcoming some challenges, and you've done that too, especially in a couple of Olympic games. 2024, I know, was heartbreaking on a couple different levels for you. Um, but your ability to bounce back and right the ship, it seems like that's part of who you've become.
Yeah. I wish I could say that everything in my career has been sunshine and rainbows. I think one thing I've become very familiar with is adversity and uh failure, I guess, really. Like when I think about those two Olympic games, I know that, hindsight, my goals for Tokyo were far too large for what was actually likely realistic given my throwing capacity at the time. But whatever happened out there definitely felt worse because my goals were too big. But I mean, when I look back, it was a huge step in my journey of becoming an Olympic athlete and becoming like the athlete I am today. But yeah, I mean, bouncing back from Tokyo was probably one of the hardest things I've had to overcome. I mean, I guess both of them, they're pretty high up there for different reasons. Um, but yeah, the repercussions, I guess, of Tokyo for me were like, it was my first Olympics. You have all of these ideas in your head of what it's supposed to be and what it's supposed to feel like and how monumental that moment is. And mine, like, I blinked, it was over, and I threw 16 meters and one, like, I've never cried so much in my life, of
Mm.
course. Like, it was like someone just like you, like, dangles the carrot and then it's gone for another 4 years. And you didn't get like any of that positive. I felt like I didn't get any of that positive reinforcement as well because like it was COVID. We had there was no like there was a village, but there wasn't really any like positive Olympic
Yeah.
experiences other than like you got there, you competed, and you got kicked out. So it was like not only did I, have a really hard time like digesting what had happened, it was like a day and a half later I was gone. Like,
Assuming you're going to Tokyo in September, are you excited
yeah.
to go back to Tokyo, or are you feeling some trepidation about that?
You know what? I don't feel any like any negative feelings towards the stadium or the city or anything. Like I think two totally different athletes from
Yeah.
that moment, and an athlete who was like not ready to accept those challenges, who wasn't doing mental performance work, who XYZ from, miles apart. I'm actually excited to go back to Tokyo because I feel like I did miss out on that experience. And I mean, we have a holding camp in Gifu, and the track is right next door. We were getting shuttled back and forth. Like, I want to go out, and I love ethnic food. I love Asian. I love sushi.
Hmm.
So I'm like really looking forward to going over there and eating my eating my weight in all of that like culture and food. And the track experience, like I think I'm super excited to walk out into that stadium when it's full and be able to have two of those kind of like situations to be able to compare.
Well, that's another great. I mean, it's a great opportunity for you to go into that ring again. Go, hey, I hated the last time I was in this ring, but I'm going to kill it today, and I'm going to inspire people again that way.
Yeah, and doing it like for myself, like kind of like a full circle moment to be going back there, I guess what is it, 4 years later,
Hmm.
to yeah, like prove to myself that, like, 4 years of hard work makes a big difference, and being in a totally different spot is like
Yeah,
you've worked for it, but it's possible. Like you can totally wrap the bed somewhere, and it doesn't define your career. It doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, as long as you like keep going. Like the kind of like you were saying, like the resilience part of that is like, for me, I think a cool full circle moment to be able to say, like, look what you did when you were here last, and look what you can do now.
yeah.
Like,
There's always
very.
another season, right? And you're already a two-time world champion. No one can ever take that away from you. So all you can do is layer new things onto that, and it may not hit every single time, but I know you're gonna someday you're gonna want to exercise that Olympic demon. Um,
Mhm.
so you grew up in Liverpool, Nova Scotia, um, right there on the very far east of Canada. What was First of all, are there any other great track and field athletes from Nova Scotia?
Yes. Jenna Martin, 2012 Olympics, 400 meter.
Hmm.
And then we had, oh my goodness, who else do we have? She's actually from just outside of my hometown. So we have, not to take away from my brain fart of who else is from Nova Scotia,
It's
but
okay.
um, what's really cool is the connection to Jenna is we have this like Olympic wall in my hometown, and so my community center put up this
Hmm.
wall that kind of celebrated like all like different types of Olympian and Olympic experiences. And what we have is like this, the special Olympians from my town, like myself as an Olympian, Jenna as an Olympian, and then we actually had someone from my hometown who was at the Montreal Olympics as
Hmm.
a coach, I believe. And so like pretty neat when you like really like look out. My town is quite small, so to
Not very
have
big.
that much connection to the Olympics is
Yeah.
really cool. But I Jeff Harris is also from Nova Scotia, Canadian 800-meter runner, and he's now a coach for the national para side.
Hmm.
So we come encounter with each other all the time, and I'm sure there's more that I'm
I'm
missing, but
sure that, I mean, yeah, if you go back, there's got to be some other
mhm.
people there. But you must take some pride in Nova Scotia and Liverpool, as all of those little towns that are around the coast of Nova Scotia, so tied to the sea, right? And like, think about the lobster fishing and other fishing and things that go
Mhm.
on there. Like growing up, what did that look like for you?
Yeah, growing up on the coast was really cool. It's something obviously really close to my heart. As I mentioned to you earlier, like my dad was a big part of that. Like every, yeah, pretty much every connection I have to fishing or being underwater as a scuba diver or anything like that is related to him. So when I grew up, he was actually a commercial diver working at the paper mill. He lobster fished during the season, as I guess some people pick that up as like a side hobby
Mm.
during the season. It's quite lucrative. Of course, like the
Yeah.
price of lobster
Yeah.
is only going up. And then when I was about 12, he actually got my brother and I into scuba diving, which was cool. So, maybe not like the most graceful or effective teacher. I think he threw me in, 25, 30 pounds of diving gear that I'd never had really that much experience with, chucked me in the water and like tied me to him with like a little tether. Um, I remember it being quite a terrible experience because if you don't know how to like uh,
Get the
regulate
pressure
your
out.
ears or equalize your ears, you're just like in screaming pain. And he was just trying to like show me and like teach me before we took our course, and I just remember it being an absolutely terrible experience. I still took the course and now I absolutely love it.
Did he
um
take you scuba diving like that into the ocean, or was it some
yeah,
other lake or tank or something like that?
no, definitely just off like in my
Up
hometown we had
here?
like a little breakwater, and so it's, you walk in,
Mm.
maybe it gets to like 30 feet of water, and that was kind of that was his way. His method was like, we're not gonna get you certified unless you like it. And I
Mm.
somehow managed to get certified, even though I didn't seem like I liked it that much. And I'm so grateful because now that had kind of like led into like what I would hope to have done post throwing or post university. But now I'm here throwing full time. So when I was graduated university, I kind of hoped to become a marine biologist, and
Mm.
that was a huge link to that. Is like growing up from the water. All the experiences that I had growing up, like on a boat and in and under the sea with him. So
Yeah. So, have you done a lot of scuba diving? Have you gone to warm places and scuba dive, or just done it there in Nova Scotia?
Um, at the beginning, it was mainly here in Nova Scotia. Our family's actually really big into recreational scalp diving. So, you can get a license, and it's like a whole family affair for us. So there'll be about 8 or 9 of us who are all scuba divers or licensed, and we can
Mm.
go down and collect them ourselves, and then we have like a big feast. Um, but I have definitely done it in the warm water, and it's quite a bit more enjoyable. I've gone, he took us to Cuba, and my brother and I did some
Oh.
like really like deep dives while we were there, which was a really cool experience. And then I actually introduced my boyfriend to scuba diving when we were in Hawaii. In
Mm.
2022, we did like a little beginner scuba diver. I think I was a little bit nicer to him than maybe my dad was to me at the time, but he really enjoyed it. So hopefully that's something that I can get to do more when I am closer to the water. I've actually never dove in a freshwater lake.
Mm.
So being in Ontario, it's not quite the same for me, but anytime
Yeah.
we're on holiday, that's something
You
that we
just might
look
see a
to
lot of
do.
mud and things down there in the lake.
That and things I don't necessarily want to see, lake sturgeon and some creepy lake fish, but
Yeah, right or something.
hmm.
Okay. Um, how did you get into throwing?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think my path is similar to most. I was a pretty athletic kid. I played everything under the sun that was offered at school or in my community: soccer, basketball, badminton, volleyball. And then I got to junior high school, and track and field was an option. And first time I did track and field, my first year, I actually had no idea what throwing was. So I did hurdles, and I did high jump, and I did long jump and triple jump and running and all this other stuff. And then, year two comes around, and I'd been like fairly successful in track. Um, and this, our track and field coach at the time was like, maybe you go over there with the boys and try shot put. And I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't even know what that is. And I went over, we had like this like concrete pad, nothing fancy. He handed me the ball. And I think I always laugh because I'm like, I don't even know what we did. Like, there's no way it was proper by most means, but I think we something that resembled shot put, and it seemed like it was okay. I was throwing maybe similar distances to the boys with this obviously appropriate ball. And I went to my first district championship in like an adjacent town maybe 3 weeks later. So I hadn't had like that much practice. And I ended up breaking this like really small local record. And
What are you like,
Didn't think,
13, 14?
yeah, like 13 years old. I was in grade 8. And
Mm.
so like didn't really think too much of it until this like crazy lady came running over and she was like beaming and very excited and she was like, "You have to join like our track club. Like I want you to throw shot put. Like you're like so good." And I was still kind of like, "Ooh, like I don't I've been doing this for 3 weeks. I'm gonna have a hard time convincing my mom to drive me to shot put practice every day." Anyway, she was so excited. I like basically couldn't resist, so I joined a track club. Uh, like immediately after that conversation, and my brother and my mom and my dad drove me 45 minutes to practice 3 times a week and waited for me to be finished. And
So would that have been in like Halifax?
no, it would have been in Bridgewater, so just down the highway. Halifax would be about 2 hours from where I
Okay.
grew up. So that was where most of like the track and field meets were.
Yeah.
And this woman actually went on to coach me for like the next X number of years, 8 to 10 years, until I think like the summer of university, other than obviously my university coaches for the fall. But
There's been some big meets in Sherbrooke, right?
Mhm.
Is I want to say like I don't know if it was a Pan Am Juniors or a World Juniors or something like that was in Sherbrooke. Was
I
that
think
before your
so.
time, maybe?
It was, but yeah, there have been some really big meets in Sherbrooke, um, which is in Quebec, and then
Oh, that's Quebec. Okay.
yeah, and then like Canada's hosted like a few of those like junior worlds. My first time wearing the Canadian singlet was actually in Canada, at the Pan Am under what must have been under 23 or under 20 championships in Edmonton in
Yeah,
2014.
14. I think like if I'm remembering correctly, I think like Vashti Cunningham was there
Hmm.
for the U.S. I mean, we were probably at that point just covering the U.S. athletes, but
I think
I
I think
remember.
Raven Saunders was in my
Okay.
competition.
Oh, that would have been a good matchup.
Not at the time. And I think I threw maybe 14 meters, like, but it was like a really cool experience. I obviously had hoped it would be somewhere cooler.
Yeah.
Making
Yeah.
your first Canadian team and you're going to Edmonton. Uh,
Mm.
Big
Yeah.
trip for a girl from a small town, but also was hoping for more.
Yeah. 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 So how did you feel like you progressed from those early days into becoming, the world champion?
I would describe my progress in shot as like slow and steady. Like most years I got better and not always by a lot. So from when I first started shot put until about college, I threw 1350 going into college through high school. So with the 4 kilogram shot. And then I came out throwing 1650,
Mm.
maybe plus or minus. And for me, like that's 4 years of hard work, and I threw 3 meters. I thought that was pretty good. Um, and especially like within Canada, I was in the U Sport system, like a 16-meter throw. I had won U Sports my last year. I'd medaled a couple times, so I was feeling like quite successful with it. Um, but I was still quite shy of the Olympic standard at the time. Like it was 1775 when I graduated university. So, still over a meter of work to go. I graduated in 2018. Olympics are supposed to be in 2020. I wasn't sure, like, seemed like a pretty big gap still. And then I ended up meeting my current coach, Richard Parkinson. At I've met him a couple times because he was coaching another Canadian Olympian at the time, Brittany Crew, who was in the U Sport system as well. So we would see each other at meets, but I didn't really know him. But my coach that I was telling you about previously introduced me to him at this coaching conference in New Brunswick. And that was our kind of like first interaction as like coach athlete. And he taught me how to spin while she was in writing her exam, despite her saying, please don't do that because I don't know how to coach it. Um, and, I feel like that interaction, we learned that I had the ability to be able to pick it up pretty quickly. Like I think I threw similar to my PB that same day.
So you were only gliding all the way through college.
Yeah, I was my rotator my last year
Mm.
as soon as I started working with Coach Parkinson.
I see.
And so I ended up So up until 2017, so I'm sorry, 2016, I was the Olympics. I didn't even go to nationals that year.
Yeah.
Didn't think it was an opportunity that was passing me by. Um, at that point, I had met Richard Parkinson, and like we had kind of known that I could spin. 2017 rolls around, and there's a FISU championships in Taiwan. I think I finished that year with like a 16 plus meter throw, and Athletics Canada and him reach out to me at the time and say like, "There's this opportunity. We're doing this program. You've been selected. I think it was called the Next Gen program. You can come to Toronto and work with us." And so I ended up moving to Toronto for the summer, worked with him, but I continued to glide because he didn't want to like take away my opportunity to make my first senior international experience. If you, not everyone considers FISU that way, but for me, it was like I'd only been on one junior team. So like it was a huge experience to be going to Taiwan to compete for Team Canada. And so we remained spinning. And I think I ended that season throwing 1630. The second we finished there, I learned how to spin. So my last year of university, I was at the University of Windsor, and I was still working with my coach in Toronto. And I would go back and forth every weekend. We would do double days, just learning how to get the movements and make it look somewhat natural. And I mean, it might have in our heads, it might have been a slight risk to do that my last year of university, but I think by November, December, I had already outthrown my personal best. So we were on the right track, even though the consistency, of course, when you start spinning is like
Yeah.
all over the place. So up until university, I think like I really had no idea what was to come. I knew that I was pretty good, probably not like Olympic level good. And then I remember meeting like Richard, and he had so much confidence in me that I was like, he'd always say like, "Oh, you're gonna throw 18 meters," like, and I was like, okay. Like I just couldn't even fathom what he saw. And then, you
What do you
know,
think he saw? Do you think, I don't know how hard you were hitting the weight room at that time, but did he see the quickness in the ring, or was it, hey, look at the strong frame on this young woman, like this is gonna work out?
yeah, I think he saw I was really athletic still. I maybe at the time I think I still weighed like 165, 170 pounds. So I wasn't that big. I wasn't that strong. I'd hit the weight room, but like my bench max was probably less than 200 pounds. Like it wasn't really. I was doing some Olympic lifting, but not really. Um, so like there's still a lot of untapped potential for sure. But I think like the thing that, and he might correct me on this, that he saw was I had a really great strike on the shot, and I do have a lot of fast twitch ability. So I think he thought like he was going to be able to use that speed and get me stronger to be able to, be a eight at the time 18 plus meter shot putter. And then when I threw 18, he's like, "Oh, I think you're going to throw 20." And I was like, "You are crazy." And so I think back to that a lot because he saw so much more in me than like, I mean, I'm exactly where he saw me, which is really, really cool for him as like talent identification. Like, if I'm a kid throwing 15, 16 meters to be able to say like, "I think you've got it," is
Yeah.
really cool.
Um, how tall are you, Sarah?
Let the record show. No, I am 5'6", maybe five
Okay.
foot six and a half. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
But there's room for you in the ring to move around, right? Like a little bit more
plenty.
than maybe a larger athlete, which
It's,
I'm getting to a question here. I noticed you have changed your start position this year, and part of that is to sort of like give yourself even more runway with a shot to
Mhm.
you know make that dance a little longer before you release it. Um, can you explain to me how that change has worked for you? What I don't know if you're still working on it. I feel like you've got that down pat. You've perfected something new here. Ryan Krauser, I think, was starting to experiment with the same sort of thing before, maybe after Budapest, I think.
Mhm.
Um, did you get the idea from that, or did you arrive at that some other way?
So I didn't arrive at it at all. I can't take any credit for that. I came to practice one day, and I think what happened is I think it was the same time Ryan debuted the step, and Tom Walsh has been doing that kind of like
Mm,
step back into the circle for a while. And the day, I mean, Richard came to practice and he's like, I think you should try that.
mm,
And I was like, "Mm, okay. So anyway, I tried the step. Pretty, anyway, not for me. Couldn't even like figure out like how to get into it right off the bat. So I was like, this feels awkward and horrible. And I just kind of like shrugged him off because I was kind of like, just because one person's doing something, you don't have to always copy, right? It's not,
yeah.
there's multiple ways to throw. And like, there's still a lot for me to improve on my own in 2023. So next thing you know, it's like, well, why don't we try what Tom does? Or like what so and like, because I think Zane and Fabry also, like, there's other people in the men's side were doing it. Why don't you try putting your foot back? And it actually went really well. Like, I thought there was no way I was going to be able to get from where my foot was and throw the shot straight the first time. And it ended up being like a little slingshot. And so we debuted that for about, I think it was like March to June in 2023. Actually competed at the Tucson Classic for the first time doing it
Mm,
in 23. And then it went really well at the time. It was like a 1950 throw. Went through to the next couple diamond leagues, and I did really poorly.
oh,
I don't necessarily think it was the technique in hindsight, but in hindsight, I came home and I was like, scratch that, or headed back. Like, I want to win a medal, and we're done playing around. Like, and of course, I think Richard wanted to keep it, but there's sometimes no fighting when someone doesn't want to do something. So and then it took me another like 3 weeks to get my rhythm back. So I continued to struggle, which sucked. But so we debuted that in 2023. And then we kind of thought like, by the end of 2020, like we had just had so much success, like just the one way that we were like, I think we're just going to stay the course for the Olympic year. Um, and just kind of like keep on with what we have. Like, we know we can throw far, that way it's consistent. And then, yeah, after the Olympics, it was like, why don't we just see what we can do here? You have so much time. I
So
mean,
then,
I had from October to World Indoors to see if I even liked it.
so what you've done is go back to the thing that you had experimented with a little bit in 23.
Yeah, I just didn't feel like we had given it like a fair shot. Pun intended, I guess. But we also, like, it was like middle of the season. So I was like, I want to work on it. Like, I'm a big believer in like most of the work gets done from like most of my hard work at least gets done from like October to March.
Mm-hmm.
And so like that's where I feel like I build like my biggest base in strength, I build my biggest base in technical. And then kind of from like through the competition season, you get to like tweak things here and there, but big changes, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
not a huge fan of. Like, we can make some minor adjustments, but I want to be like on at all times, because like you only get 3 throws in qualifying. Like, if you all of a sudden are inconsistent again with your technique, like, you could be out really quickly. And so that's
Yeah.
something that like I really value, is like being so confident in my movement that like it's going to happen on those 3 throws.
How
Because I've
dialed
been
in were you when you went to Nanjing for World Indoors on the technique?
I felt pretty comfortable with it. Like, it honestly, because I think I'd done it previously, and we had spent the whole winter doing that. I felt pretty dialed in terms of like my feel out of the back. I mean, the feel at the front of the throw for me at that point almost had kind of been my bigger issue, because we had spent like the bulk of time trying to figure out like how to even get the same um, directional ability and get the same, like, or more, I guess, more speed out of the back, that I was almost constantly missing the front of the throw because it was happening so much faster. But yeah, I mean, I think I had some, really big confidence boosters headed into Nanjing. Like, I had 2068 pretty early. I almost surprised myself with it because, like, I knew that big things were coming. I really do believe that this technique is something that's helping me throw further, especially more consistently. I don't have to try as hard to throw 20 meters because it's adding a little extra without extra effort, particularly, is how I feel. And so, yeah, I think for Nanjing, I was feeling pretty confident. I mean, there's definitely always those doubts. I've never come in as a world defending champion before, so I was really, I had put a lot of pressure on myself to want to repeat that, and um, yeah, I was just super happy that I was able to do that.
When you start to play with a little extra room or distance to start your throw off, like what's the what's the risk in seeing, well, maybe I can add 3 more inches to that start or another 3 inches to that? Like,
Hmm.
I'm just going to be pretty soon. I'll be doing 2 spins in the ring. But, um, how much do you play with that until you find like the sweet spot? Like, okay, this is where it starts, and I can't go any farther than that.
I think so. For myself, I think you have to be able to throw from the standard start first. Like if you're already inconsistently missing the middle, or you're going straight towards the left sector if you're a right-handed thrower, like if there's pieces that you already can't get around and you aren't consistently hitting those movements, adding more movement is never going to help you. And so I felt like I was consistently good enough at the back of my throw where I knew that like adding a little bit would probably add a little bit of inconsistency, but like I was ready to kind of take on that challenge and find the right feeling for that. And I think we started with like baby steps. I mean, we moved back a little bit, then we moved back a lot, and then the common sense piece was like right in the middle, because it does feel quite ridiculous. And I don't want to say this and then end up doing it in the future, but like to stand like almost facing the direction you're going to throw and then try to throw. I think like maybe there's a world where that works. I have no idea, but we found kind of like, and I'm very lucky. Like I have like a whole team of like biomechanists, and I have people helping me with like the science of it. And so we're drawing like shot paths, and we're trying to actually see like, is does it just look snazzy, or is there actually something happening?
Yeah, you learn in the physics. Yeah, or study
Yeah,
the physics of it. Yeah.
studying the physics for me, like on a very like feeling and like qualitative for myself. Like I did study science, but like for me, it's more important on how it feels. If I feel like I'm moving the ball more, if I feel like I'm accelerating more, if I feel like I'm moving faster. But like, that's what I had. That was our main question, is like, is this actually helping, or is it like detracting? Because we knew like the year previous, I had thrown a very far throw at the Diamond League final with my foot right at the back. So
Right.
it was kind of like we didn't want to like, how far do you play with it before you maybe aren't throwing as far as you would the other way? And you'll never know, but there's always science.
Did you start off throwing discus as well? Did you still ever throw the discus? You don't throw the discus, right?
I'm not very good at discus. I mean, again, I'm 5'6". I am not very long and lean. Um, I threw discus in high school. I think struggled to throw like 30 meters. I had a training partner a couple years ago who was a discus thrower, and I would go goof around and throw discus over there. I think maybe if I practiced, I could probably muster a 48 to 50, but it's very shot putty. It's very short. It's very fast. It's not
Mm-hmm.
graceful.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate you like going into the weeds with me a little bit about some of those details. I've taken up a bunch of your time. I think I'm going to probably wrap this up and just say congratulations on again what you did in March, and good luck next week at the Canadian Championships. It's been a real fun pleasure getting to know you a little bit this month and getting to ask you some questions and I wish you all the best.
Thank you. Thanks so much for doing this. It's always fun to, yeah, talk shop with anyone who's willing to listen.